The best show on television this whole past year has just come to an end, which is very sad. And like any character-driven show, part of what kept it exciting over the course of the season is that some characters, even characters that you might have grown really attached to, some of the most charismatic characters of all, got axed from the show unexpectedly. Right? I mean, even if you love them, they had to go. Remember back to the season premiere of the Republican Debate Show? This is who was on the very first episode of the Republican Debate Show. Ron Paul, obviously. Rick Santorum. Who knew how it was going to work out for him by the end of the season, right? Tim Pawlenty was there on episode 1. God, yeah, just last year that Tim Pawlenty was running for president seems like a lifetime ago. Herman Cain, the breakout child star who fell immediately into obscurity, and now we all worry about him. And this guy, The Situation, Gary Johnson. By the second episode, Gary Johnson was gone. But we got all these great new characters by the second episode, right? There was the introduction of Newt Gingrich. There was the only female character, Michelle Bachmann. There was some guy named Mitt Romney. But by the fourth debate, Tim Pawlenty was gone. And then Tim Pawlenty was gone, but by the fourth debate, we got even a new character, new guy, Rick Perry. By December in the debate show, we had lost Herman Cain. After Iowa, we had lost Michelle Bachmann. After New Hampshire, we had lost John Huntsman. After South Carolina, we lost Rick Perry. And by the season finale last night of the Republican Debate Show, by number 20, we were used to just seeing these 4 remaining characters. The whole cast had narrowed down to these 4. But throughout this show, throughout the whole season, the most interesting and most unpredictable and most outrageous character of all of them for the entire series of this show has been this character. This character, the audience.
In 2010, when I was deployed to Iraq, I had to lie about who I was because I'm a gay soldier, and I didn't want to lose my job. My question is, under one of your presidencies, do you intend to circumvent the progress that's been made for gay and lesbian soldiers in the military?
Yeah. Boo. That was debate number 6. In Florida, where a Republican debate audience booed at an American soldier who had been deployed to Iraq. They booed at him because he was gay. For most of these debates, the sound coming out of the audience told you more about Republican politics in 2012 right now than the sound coming out of any of the characters on the stage itself.
Your state has executed 234 death row inmates, more than any other governor in modern times. Have you struggled to sleep at night?
Are you suggesting that heroin and prostitution are an exercise of liberty?
Up until this past century, you know, for over 100 years they were legal. What you're inferring is, you know what? If we legalized heroin tomorrow, everybody's going to use heroin. How many people here would use heroin if it was legal? I bet nobody would put to hand, oh yeah, I need the government to take care of me. I don't want to use heroin, so I need these laws.
A healthy 30-year-old young man has a good job, makes a good living, but decides, you know what, I'm not going to spend $200 or $300 a month for health insurance because I'm healthy, I don't need it. But, you know, something terrible happens, all of a sudden he needs it.
My advice to him would have a major medical policy, but not before.
But he doesn't have that. He doesn't have it, and he needs intensive care for 6 months. Who pays?
That's what freedom is all about, taking your own risk. This whole idea that you have to prepare and take care of everybody.
But Congressman, are you saying the society should just let him die?
No.
If I were president, I would be willing to use waterboarding. I think it was very effective. It gained information for our country.
Woo! Yeah! The Republican Debate Show audience has been everybody's favorite character in this amazing show this year. And last night, we got the Republican Debate Show audience booing birth control.
Since birth control is the latest hot topic, which candidate believes in birth control, and if not, why?
Now, it's possible that the debate audience is booing contraception. It's possible also that the debate audience is booing the fact that there is a question about contraception that is being asked at the debate. And that seems to be how it was interpreted by the guy from CNN who was last night's debate moderator.
As you can see, it's a
It's a very popular question.
It's a very popular question in the audience, as we can see. And look, we're not going to spend a ton of time on this.
CNN's John King saying we're not going to spend a ton of time on this. Saying that the candidates don't have to spend too much time on the issue of birth control. He'd be happy to move things right along. Let's touch on this and get on to other things that won't get booed. But for all the audience booing and the characters on stage tutting at CNN for asking this birth control question, when given the chance to talk about birth control, boy howdy, did these guys have a lot to say. If you exclude the big voice announcer guy introducing the whole debate and you exclude the commercial breaks, we counted today. There were a total of 89 minutes in this debate. Given the chance to talk about birth control, the candidates held forth on the subject of birth control for 13 and a half minutes. That means for roughly 1 out of every 7 minutes in the grand finale in the debate last night, 1 out of every 7 minutes, the candidates wanted to talk about contraception, specifically the evil and the immorality of contraception.
As an OB doctor, I've dealt with birth control pills and contraception for a long time. Sort of along the line of the pills creating the immorality, I don't see it that way. I think the immorality creates the problem of wanting to use the pills.
Healthcare insurance that would include birth control, sterilization, and the morning after pill. Unbelievable.
That the public health department was prepared to give a waiver to Catholic hospitals about a morning after abortion pill, and that the governor's office issued explicit instructions saying that they believed it wasn't possible.
When you were campaigning in Iowa, you told an evangelical blog, if elected, you will talk about what, quote, no president has talked about before, the dangers of contraception. Why?
What I was talking about is we have a society. Charles Murray just wrote a book about this, and it's on the front page of the New York Times 2 days ago, which is the increasing number of children being born out of wedlock in America, teens who are sexually active.
Rick Santorum citing the guy who wrote The Bell Curve, which is the book about black people being biologically inferior to white people when it comes to intelligence, citing that guy and his new book to make his case that if there were less birth control in America, if you take birth control away, there will be fewer pregnancies out of wedlock. It is a conspiracy theory on the right now that Democrats have brought up this contraception issue as a trap for the Republicans. This is what the Rush Limbaugh show is about every day now. Democrats are the ones who raised the issue of contraception. Democrats are the ones who've decided to politicize birth control to try to make Republicans look bad and to distract Republicans from their core message, which has absolutely nothing to do with this. Now, as a liberal, personally, would that Democrats were that Machiavellian, or that they could make Republicans talk about things they don't want to talk about. But in this case, it really, really is Republicans bringing it up. I mean, the Obama White House decision on health insurance coverage for birth control, that came down in the middle of January. It sat there for weeks, unmolested by national politics, until Newt Gingrich started trying to make anti-birth control hay over that decision. He's the one who brought it up on the campaign trail, and thereby the national outcry erupted. Republicans are the ones who decided that inveighing against the accessibility of birth control, even inveighing against birth control itself as evil, was what they wanted to campaign on. You cannot blame liberals for this. I wish you could, as a liberal. I wish you could, but you cannot. But it's not just the campaign against contraception. It isn't only happening on the Republican presidential campaign trail this year. Since Republicans won governorships and control of state legislatures across the country in 2010, frankly, it has been abortion and contraception palooza in the states when it comes to state policy. I mean, wherever Republicans are in control, these are the issues that they have prioritized. In the great state of Virginia, for example, in the 10 years before 2011, there were 19 votes over 10 years on abortion in the General Assembly. That's an average of less than 2 a year. After Republicans took control of the House in 2011, there were 34 votes on abortion in 1 year. 34 votes on abortion just in 2011. In Virginia, represented a national trend, a flood of new anti-abortion restrictions in state legislatures across the country, and they're being passed. Check this out. This is a chart of the number of anti-abortion bills enacted by states up through 2010. Then look what happens in 2011. Hello! Look! A record number of anti-abortion bills enacted by the states last year after the Republicans had their huge year in the 2010 elections. 80 new abortion restrictions, courtesy of Republican state lawmakers. That's more than double the previous American record of 34. But here's the thing. What happens when you start having steamrolling legislative success like that is that I think it tends to make you cocky. And sloppy. And so in Virginia, flushed with their own power, Virginia Republicans proposed their own version of a forced ultrasound bill, like 7 other states have enacted. But in Virginia, they are very excited about their own power, and they overreach. They overreach almost literally. They mandate that their forced ultrasound must reach inside your body, the forced vaginal probe ultrasound, which gets everybody in the country's attention. It takes a couple of days, but it does get everybody's attention. And now Virginia Republicans are frankly in chaos. There was another day of protests outside the Capitol in Virginia today. This one decidedly not a silent protest like the one organized earlier this week outside the Capitol. There were also protests happening inside the building where a Senate committee was busy amending and passing both a forced ultrasound bill and a fertilized egg is a person bill that would ban all abortion in the state and likely hormonal birth control as well. This is the kind of chaos the sponsor of the personhood bill encountered as he tried to talk to reporters outside the committee meeting room. The lobby was full of people shouting shame and chanting at him. At least one woman had to be physically restrained by police while he was conducting this interview. And after all the drama surrounding today's hearings in the Senate on that bill, in the Virginia Senate, something really surprising happened. Virginia Senate Republicans decided to not take a vote on that personhood bill, that fertilized egg as a person bill. They decided to scuttle it, to not take a vote on it in the full Senate. They went along with a Democratic motion to send the bill back to committee, a move that means that the bill is dead for the rest of this year. So the personhood bill, dead in Virginia. The mandatory forced ultrasound bill, on the other hand, passed a Senate committee today and is moving forward, though there wasn't a vote on it in the full Senate today. Now that the whole nation is sort of awake to the horror of state-ordered vaginal probing, which was in the original bill that Bob McDonnell had originally said he would sign, I wonder if it is sort of sinking into Virginia Senate Republicans that state probing of any kind, vaginal or otherwise, is seen by Americans as legislators playing doctor. And as this resonates from a hearing room to a state legislature, to a governor who really wants to be vice president, to the national stage, Republican political chaos on the issue of abortion and contraception and what they supposedly think of as limited government, Republican political chaos on this issue is spreading.
Obamacare, which is the biggest issue in this race of government control of your lives.
You inevitably move towards tyranny because the government has the power of force.
There's a collision course in Republican politics right now. Bob McDonnell, after amending the forced vaginal ultrasound bill, still wants to force doctors to do things to you, even if it's against their judgment and it's against your will, and he wants to make you pay for the privilege. That's the revised bill from Bob McDonnell. Not the forced vaginal ultrasound bill, but the forced ultrasound nonetheless, and you can pay for it. The state says so. You can tell your doctor to shut up, and you too. Take it. Across the country, while nobody in the Beltway media noticed until now, it has been the Republican agenda, both federally and at the state level, to have the government control this part of the practice of medicine. Telling you what to do, forcing you to do things you do not want done to your body, telling your doctor what to do, all because the government knows best. Medical judgment doesn't matter. Your will doesn't matter. The chaos in Virginia today is coming to the national stage. Because you can be the party that tries to scare people about a phantom government takeover of health care when you rant about what you call as Obamacare, right? You can be the party that rants about a phantom government takeover of health care. Or you could be the party that really is trying to take over health care. Women's health care, anyway. You can be one of those things, or you can be the other. You cannot be both of those things. Joining us now is a Democratic legislator who has been fighting back anti-abortion bills by way of legislative satire. Georgia State Representative Yasmin Neal is the author of an anti-vasectomy bill in the Georgia House of Representatives. Representative Neal, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let me ask you if you would explain both what your vasectomy bill would do and why you decided to propose it.
Well, the anti-vasectomy bill makes it where men cannot get vasectomies unless they are trying to avert a death or serious bodily injury. And it originated due to the fact that when we started the abortion debates, I noticed that the number one thing that was missing in the conversation was women, how women feel, and what we want it to do with our bodies. Granted, we don't want to act like there's no empathy or sympathy for a fetus or what have you, but what a fetus is and when life starts is at the discretion of each individual person or family in your belief system, and we don't feel that the Georgia House of Representatives should legislate that.
What have been the consequences of your introducing this? How has it been greeted in the state legislature, and what do you think is going to happen in the long run because you've done this?
Well, ironically, I haven't had really bad reviews at all, and even the author of the abortion bill himself, he hasn't been nasty or rude or anything of that nature. The opposing Republican Party, they have not been rude at all. Some of them think it's quite funny. At the same time, the Democratic Party, they've been supportive as well. I don't see anything really happening as far as extraordinarily bad. I don't see anything occur. I don't see any problem with anything moving forward as far as any repercussions after the bill has been introduced. I'm just interested to see what happens with the bill.
When you look at not just what's happening in Georgia, but what's happening nationwide, as a state legislator, somebody who's in the midst of this in your own state, what do you think about? Why do you think the issue of contraception and abortion rights has risen to the very top of the political agenda in state legislatures in the nation's capital, even on the presidential campaign trail this year? Why do you think this is being made such a priority by Republicans?
Well, that's the number one question that all women are trying to answer themselves. Maybe it's the irony of it being an election year. Maybe it's convenient to put a political campaign on the backs of women. I don't really know, considering there are many Georgians, many Americans that are trying to decide between if they're going to put food on the table or if they're going to pay the light bill, when some of our school systems are in shambles and we are trying our hardest to compete with international students that are far exceeding us in all of the areas scholastically. I don't know, and that's the question that we're trying to answer. So many Georgians, so many Americans need help with so many other topics and areas. Why are we focusing on this? Why are we under the skirts of women as opposed to handling other government business?
Georgia State Representative Yasmin Neal, thank you very much for being here tonight. I know you had a bunch of national attention since you introduced this, yes. And you being willing to explain it to us is a real kindness to us. Thank you, ma'am.
No, thank you.